The Paul is dead theory is getting old, and it's overshadowing an actual, credible theory that every fan should know. It's the key to understanding the band and their songs after all. And that theory is that Ringo Starr is the only Beatle. Not the only Beatle alive, that's not what I mean, but the only Beatle who ever existed. That's right, John, Paul and George are only figments of our imagination. Ringo's genius fooled us all into believing that his imaginary friends are real. But in reality, Ringo was using his supernatural abilities to be for different people at the same time, with different personalities, looks and voice. This obviously proves that he is an incredibly talented individual who mastered playing multiple instruments at the same time and who wrote all of the band's songs. But on top of that, he was extremely humble, or perhaps preferred to hide the truth that he didn't have any friends. He attributed most of the band's success to the other members and hid behind less significant songs, but pretended that he couldn't really write songs. But of course, any theory needs proof behind it for people to believe it, and I sure have a lot of that. Firstly, let's analyze Ringo's life and understand psychologically what made him create his imaginary friends and how he got his superpowers. Richard Starkey was born on July 7, 1940 in Liverpool, England, and rose to stardom under the name of Ringo Starr with the biggest band of all time. But like every big star, he was surrounded by darkness. He had a difficult childhood in which he was constantly ill. Not just that, but his biological father left him when he was only 3 years old, and he also didn't have any siblings, so it is clear that Ringo spent most of his early life alone, in hospitals. He missed school and probably didn't have any friends either. It was this loneliness that made him create 3 imaginary friends. Every child would do that after all. We all had to have imaginary friends, but what we do not have is the ability to make them seem real to others. We can't do that, unfortunately, as we're mere humans. If you can, please let me know though. But Ringo is not an ordinary human, or better said, he stopped being one at a certain point. When he was 6 years old, Richard Starkey underwent an appendix surgery that nearly cost him his life. You know, back then even this mundane surgery was way more complicated, and as a result of that, the doctors had to implant him with alien genes to save his life. After that, Ringo's health improved and he took up playing drums. His musical journey took him to Hamburg, where his genes started to manifest. It was there that he realized that everyone else could see his imaginary friends and that he had control over their words, actions, everything. At first it did seem weird to him, but after a while he could just naturally control them, as if they were extensions of his body and different sides of his personality. And well, we all know what happened after. How did these imaginary friends work though? Well, they were all extensions of Ringo's personality and body. They were different sides of him, and it is clearly visible how Ringo is a combination of all the band members. His obsession with peace and love is just like John's, his exceptional musical talent like Paul's, and his chill personality and spirituality like George's. And on top of that, many people seem to think that the Beatles look alike. Well, they really do, and Ringo only started to make his imaginary friends dress differently from him and have other kinds of hairstyles to make sure that people don't realize this. But Face Up is not letting him get away with it. In just a few clicks you get straight to the truth. And indeed, Ringo didn't quite manage to completely cover up his secret. He put clues everywhere, most of the time involuntarily, and when it comes to this, I guess I should start with the so-called Paul is dead theory that only goes to show that Paul didn't in fact die and get replaced. No, this man never even existed to begin with, and Ringo used the concept of death and replacement with a fake as a metaphor to Paul being part of his imagination. In fact, he was the one who started this theory both for his own amusement and as a way to divert the attention from the truth. Furthermore, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album is about Ringo and his imaginary friends. It's all in the title after all. Ringo is the sergeant and his band is the result of his lonely heart. The members are wearing matching outfits on the album cover and are surrounded by many iconic people to portray the idea that everyone and everything is influenced by someone else, and we are under the illusion that our own personality and life is unique, when in fact it's just a repetition of what was before. Wait, I'm getting too deep in here, but that's how Ringo was feeling. You know, there's also the song With a Little Help from My Friends that is very illustrated here. The lyrics lyrics are a perfect fit, but you might be saying that I'm reaching too far and it's just a song about friendship. No, if you reverse it, you can clearly hear Ringo saying I'm the only Beatle and the others singing I'm not even real. Moreover, the song I Am the Walrus, which had everyone questioning its meaning, is another one of Ringo's attempts to get the truth out. I mean, the lyrics just couldn't be more obvious. Still, Ringo didn't even have to worry about people figuring it out. Everyone was too focused on John and Paul, or the band's drug influence, to even think that it could have anything to do with him. He attributed it to his John personality after all. The lyric "The Walrus" was Paul on Glass Morning was just another way of shifting the attention away from him and had people debating whether the walrus is John or Paul. Well, it's actually Ringo. It's always been Ringo. And to top it all, the song Come Together is another obvious clue. Someone said that each part describes a certain member, and that's true. Ringo basically made a song about his personalities coming together, and the line "over me" illustrates how he was being overshadowed by the other three Beatles. But you might be asking yourself now, what is it with John and George's deaths then? Or with the Beatles' breakup, what exactly happened there? Well, there is one simple explanation for everything. Over the years, Ringo's bond with his friends started to break and he was slowly losing control over them. He realized that living four lives at the same time was too complicated. So after a while he just couldn't do it anymore, so he cut ties with his imaginary friends. But of course, the more he distanced himself from them, the more endangered they were of completely disappearing. John was the first one to pass away, in an extremely tragic way, which of course wasn't Ringo's fault. Something similar happened to George, having been attacked in his own home. He did have cancer as well, but he would have survived it. It seems like both of them had violent deaths. I don't think that is a coincidence. Normally, Ringo and all of his imaginary friends are supposed to be immortal, so they couldn't have died of natural causes, but none of them are invincible, and cutting ties with them left them exposed to such unfortunate events. Their alien energy attracted evil people, and without Ringo's control they had no protection against them. Of course, John's death was a wake-up call to Ringo, so he tried to gain control over George again, but that didn't work out of all his friends. It's quite obvious that George was his closest, but that didn't mean that he had the most control over him. On the contrary, it meant that Ringo wanted George to be as free as possible, so he wasn't able to control him again. It did work very well on Paul though, which is why both of them are alive and well now. Still, there is a possibility that John and George were brought back to life by Ringo, since he can technically do that, but he's keeping it a secret so that nobody knows that he's got supernatural abilities. We can also expect him to fake his and Paul's deaths in the near future to cover up his immortality, but he'll be lurking somewhere for sure, maybe finding a new career to dominate together with his imaginary friends. So always be on the lookout for Ringo Starr. Well, that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please comment your thoughts on my theory, like, subscribe and share. Peace and love. Peace and love.